Yeah, we are live. Do we have a topic to discuss for today?
We could either continue on last week or quite a few interesting topics shared on Discord over the past week. The Zeno thing and what else?
Okay, yeah.
And
I'm planning to redesign that or make a new PCB for Tumblr. So, are there any wishes we want to have? Things we don't want?
Why?
Because you cannot have sensors reading back to the microcontroller right now.
Hmm.
You can only send signals. So, it cannot balance, cannot read the encoders. Yeah. So, that's the problem. So, I will design a 3.3 volt board. So what all things do we want in there?
How do you add the sensors?
Uh, we have like UART and I2C and SPI. Let's say uh, three type three buses. So I'll try to at least add the UART because I have that $10 lidar scanner. So that is a UART based uh, lidar scanner, and then this GPS is also UART based. So basically, two UARTs, and then I think that motor controller is I2C, and the accelerometer could be either I2C or SPI or the IMU. And then there is this ultrasonic sensors. I don't know how it works. Maybe it's UART or I2C. Probably it is I2C. And then, yeah, I had brought out that I2C temperature and humidity sensor. So this is already quite a lot of sensors now.
So, what kind of bus are you going to put on?
Huh?
Oh,
Buzz?
Venkat, just a second. Venkat has those. He says starting point just to produce a 5-volt existing board.
Where is it?
It's in the private chat.
Uh, well, 5 volt, like I don't want to do it because like you need these voltage translators and then it takes a lot of space.
Wait,
And
what is
everything has to,
the original board?
it's 5 volts.
Okay.
But we had to do 3.3 on the plugin because of this Arduino doesn't work on 5. So yeah, so one way, the easiest, smallest step would be just reproduce everything with 3.3. So yeah, we can do that one. I was thinking of doing it in this RPi hat format. So there is a ready-made template which you get, or at least I have seen some that you get the form factor of a RPi hat with 40 pin connectors, and then you can add components on top of it. So basically, then you can use it as a hat on an RPi when later on when you want to add it. I don't know if you should directly jump there or not. I'm not that skilled with PCB design.
the next challenge. So,
Yeah. So that is like I can start doing it maybe after next week.
what are the needs from the functionality perspective for the Tumblr or for another? I don't know. It can be n times the same robot, but it can be also a different kind of robots. Okay, so with different kind of capabilities. So but perhaps to decide what to put on the PCB is first to perhaps understand what we're trying to achieve.
Well, so right now the frames version 2 has come out. I think last week they released the spec, and so basically it's a mini app now. So we can do a lot of stuff just then, other than just four buttons. It's like a mini browser, so whatever we can do on the browser. So I would extend everything we have right now to frames v2 and with a renewed PCB. So basically, it can stream the data sensors or camera or whatever to that frames v2. So that is the goal right now.
Oh, okay. How does that translate into PCB components or any PCB component requirements?
Well, only the Wi-Fi endpoint, and then if
Okay.
we want, so we had that problems with Wi-Fi at the venue, right? So do we want to add a 4G modem? And if we want to add a 4G modem, then what kind of bandwidth? Because Blues is basically for small data centers
Right.
sensors, so you cannot stream the video or large images. I don't know. I haven't checked the specs, but otherwise we would have to add a Quectel or a Sequans modem, 4G modem, and then we use our own SIMs with high data rate. So then we have then we don't need actually the Wi-Fi. So that is one way to design it, but that is a much larger step.
Right.
Yeah.
So from the problems that the platform seems to have so far, not problems, but kind of points that can be improved. That's apparently one. Okay. I think we talked about that a lot. Yes, about the bandwidth and so on. In that context, we also talked about perhaps having enough compute to do something like an MPEG stream. Okay.
So
Because
streaming is already possible on Wi-Fi. So I can, so the software I have for the ESP cam right now. So if you go to an IP and a specific endpoint, you can live stream. You can see the live stream. But I don't do it for the
it's on
actual
one side.
frame.
It's on one side, but the context of the discussion, I think, last week was that because Blue was very restricted in terms of bandwidth. Okay.
Yeah.
But Blue is still an attractive offering, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. So if so, then why not a technology that works on diffs, basically? So a streaming technology, but with diff compression. So the MPEG family, as far as I know, is related to that. Okay, I don't remember which one does which and so on. Okay, but usually what I hear about technology like MPEG, okay, is that it consumes more compute. Okay, and so that's why I was thinking, okay, perhaps the board, okay, so the onboard compute needs to be beefed up to be able to do streaming for Blue, for example. Okay, that could be an interesting route.
Yeah, but that is like a larger change than we have currently. So if we want to go step by step, so if we want to use the frame server already what we have, so we do a small change in the PCB design and then go from there. So that is like a easier route to adapt to.
What change do you think it means for to do streaming
Well,
for?
I'm not the. If somebody would be more skilled with PCB design, for them it might not be a big issue.
Yeah, but concretely,
For
I
me,
don't see what that would change on the PCB.
yeah. So basically, you would need a M.2 connector or something like that for the modem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because Blues come. I don't know. Probably it's in M.2 connector, or they have a feather board, I think too. But anyway, we'll have to add that.
So you mean connecting Blue is the extra
Yeah.
work? I see.
Yeah, any new form factors, at least it will take time for me to do
Yeah,
it,
sure,
but
sure,
if
sure.
somebody's really skilled, for them it's like a 1 day work.
Okay, now I understand because I was seeing that more as a software issue, like configuring a proper
Yeah.
streaming piece. Okay, perhaps you're relying on a FFmpeg or something like that. I don't know. Okay, but no, in fact, okay, there is also we can't use blue just as it is right now. Okay, got it. So there is something else we talked based on what Venkatesh and you have done at DevCon is basically we need a server somewhere. Okay, so we have an extra moving part, right? Okay.
Yeah.
There's something that can be done in this discussion where we can, for example, remove that requirement. Where basically, I don't know, perhaps the server would be just running on the robot directly, basically. And so this has perhaps it has consequences on the PCB. That's why I'm asking, basically.
Yeah, it can be done, but then that frame server has to be posted and then it serves. Yeah, it's possible, but then you cannot have. Then each rover has its own server, so we cannot have like a centralized servers that lists what sort of rovers we have. So right now, how it works is it's like a server that provides you the rovers. So I have like one server, and then it shows you the list. So at DevCon we had rover A and rover B, and then you could control the both the rovers at the same time from the same frame server. So that is the architecture right now.
But
But
at the same time, the server, it seems the server has two roles. It's first discovery, and second, basically a frame, like a frame, a middleman server, kind of, okay? And so perhaps it's about splitting the server into discovery, which should be centralized, okay? Fine. At least it's simpler this way. We can see that for Mastodon, Blue Sky, and so on. These were difficult problems to deal with, being decentralized and be able to discover communities. And we can see that Mastodon, for example, and Blue Sky are taking different approaches, and Farcaster too, right? So perhaps the server piece, and so I don't know it well. Okay, so but could be perhaps split into the discovery, and that one would be on an instance somewhere. Okay, but after the frame parts, okay, so the frame management part could be on device. Okay, software wise, it's not so much work. However, if that's interesting and relevant, would there be any consequence on the PCB requirements, basically?
well, I think frame V1 can be served from ESP32 directly. So I'm already able to serve buttons and take actions on the ESP32 CAM. The software I've written, it will serve HTML, and then you can rotate the images based on the buttons. So you can actually, so instead of rotating the images, you could have buttons to directly move the rover itself. So I think frame one V1 can be done directly on the rover easily.
Yeah.
But
On the
if you want,
ESP directly?
yes.
Okay. I've never done such kind of server directly on a microcontroller, so that's a bit of an appeal, basically. Okay.
Okay.
That's cool. What about Venkatesh? Last question in the chat.
Integrate the ESP CAM board. So there are
Can we-
two ways to do it. So either we design the board around Freenove ESP32S3, which has a onboard camera, but then it takes away some of the pins, around 10 pins from the microcontroller. Or we use something like ESP CAM. And then, so yeah, it's not that difficult to integrate that on the board itself.
Here, the
But
ESP CAM
yeah,
board is the kind of dev kit that includes the CAM, and the
yes,
main
but
is the dev kit, basically, right?
yeah. So
Yeah.
if Reno has a camera on itself, but if you use the camera on that, then you are taking away the pins from whatever. I think it has 30 pins brought out. So you will take some pins from there. But if you have a separate ESP cam, then basically like you need to some way to integrate and provide power to it. But the ESP cam version Venkat and I have, or the one we used in DevCon, it's end of life, so they don't produce it anymore, that integrated version. So That is another problem. But there is like a ESP cam directly. So this is from Espressive, but there are third party ESP cams which we could use.
Right. But so sorry about the question from Venkatesh here.
Right now, I am powering it with USB. Then it's
right.
like just taking the power out and powering it.
What would it take in terms of PCB work to have? Here it's about maybe integrate. The question is about integrating. Okay, but I think the problem is actually the second question is to have one board handling basically the work of everything. Okay, of the two. Okay, so that would mean what a PCB with a room and a camera.
I think it should be possible. With frame V1, it should be possible. But I don't know though, like what's the requirement for? Yeah, but like we are serving the frame from a laptop, or a server. Yeah, I think it should not be a problem.
How challenging is it on the PCB side? Because the room
Uh,
is sock, right? Okay, so usually the socks are pretty solid. We just need to solder them properly, right? So sorry, I may be jumping around because I don't know well the stack.
Well, if it's so two endpoints, it will always be a separate endpoint for the camera and for controlling the rover. So that if we are serving it from two ESPs or one ESP is the question. I think it should be possible to serve it from the same ESP. But then we have to also have the camera on the same ESP. And then having the camera on the same ESP takes away pins. And then basically taking away pins means taking away other some form of or connection to other sensors. So that's the problem.
But because you're talking about the given form factor, right, for the PCB.
No, not yeah. It's like they have 30 pins. I think Freno has 30 pins or something brought out on the dev kit. But it also has a camera on top of it. So when we use the camera, it uses some of the pins that are brought out. You cannot use them for the same stuff. Do you understand?
Okay, so having two ESPs, one advantage is that it brings more pins
Pins
for
to
sensors.
yeah.
So
Yes.
sensors that will be connected to one of the two boards, basically.
Yeah.
Can we have
Yeah.
local?
So that can be done. So you could have like a UART based communication, or like so we could have something similar to what the Galaxy rover has. So it's like a Wi-Fi UART bridge. Uh, Local network. Yeah, so one way is actually the ESP32S3 has a native USB. So we could connect the ESP cam directly to the USB of the ESP of the Freno. So that is something I have to try. I've not tried it yet. So that will require like a USB-C to a USB micro USB connector, and then you can natively connect. But that requires a lot of software work on the ESP side. UART is a little easier, but then you have to deal with the framing and stuff.
At the same time, isn't it? So the what Venkat says is, in general, future will be many cameras, so need a local network. And so, isn't it a generic enough problem and a likely architecture kind of pattern for such kind of rover, isn't it generic enough to justify having a specific PCB to facilitate that, basically? But
I think I've seen
yeah.
some PCB that connects like 4 or 5 cameras to a Raspberry Pi. So we could have, I don't know the protocol used.
So they are using a special protocol, and they provide some kind of
Yeah, it's like a hat, but you can connect 5 cameras
okay,
to it.
so multiplexing or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
So is it? So does it? Do you know whether that relies on specific hardware components, or it's purely software on some kind of bus, basically?
I have no idea. Need to check.
It's interesting you say that, because we in the chat on Discord there was the discussion about the Zeno software framework. Okay, so which is a networking apparently pretty lightweight. Apparently, it can go also pretty low level as well. It sounds like an interesting coincidence.
Not finding it now, but I've seen those things where you are connecting multiple cameras. Yeah, here it is.
The name, because
Just search for multiple camera modules on Raspberry Pi. I'll share the link.
yeah, no, but I searched for multiplexing cameras on AirPi, and there are quite a few. ArduCam and on Hackaday, IVMet, IV ports, stuff like that. Just wondering where. Okay.
So I think this has 4 cameras on one Pi.
Okay, so there. Okay.
It's a hat, so it's only going through some common protocol then, because it's not. So it's like 6 pins.
Okay. Interesting, because I'm making, for one of my companies, I'm making Raspberry Pis or other SBCs, with up to 12 cameras. Okay, but I did not. I did not consider that because of these, these connectors. I find them really hard to work with. I just go over IP, basically. Which is cheap and super ineffective if you want to do more real time and stuff like that. But on the Raspberry Pi, we just put that on a network. So a Pi, a small hub or switch, and all the cameras on it, and that's it basically. But then it's pretty bulky, of course. Okay, so on a rover, that's super not optimal.
So it's using the MIPI connectors. I don't know what that is, but
is it the caramel color
cable?
The band?
Camera. Harukam's new solution to multiple cameras.
Mm.
Yeah, I wanted it a few years ago for the Spider. Didn't exist. How is a streams multiplex? How does that work? What is the output?
Time multiplexed fashion.
So I get the frame, or I tell him which one to give?
Time multiplex, okay.
Okay, they have 2 versions. So initially they released the time multiplex version, and now they have a synchronized stereo camera head.
Okay. So basically, in terms of architecture, that's a specialized board. And
yeah.
Anuraj, how much room do you need on the PCB? In other words, the tumbler has a PCB right now. How much more can you stuff in on it? Is there room on that board for another
Well,
ESP32?
it kind of depends on the skill of the designer.
No, I'm saying what fits in the tumbler now. That's what I'm saying.
Uh, right now, I think I could squeeze a little more. Yeah, I could add one more or one or two more sensors
No, but can you add another ESP?
on board. Yeah, I think so.
What
But
is
we
the
don't need the
limit?
other, because if the other ESP is a camera, a ESP, then it's probably not going to go on the board itself, because the camera is placed somewhere else. Mm. This needs probably some experiments. Like, how do you multiplex between these camera MIPI connectors? If that is possible, then you could just add four MIPI connectors on four sides of the um, PCB, and then you are basically time multiplexing them with the same ESP. So when you want to look forward, you query the forward camera.
Mm.
So you could have a multiplexer on board that allows you to choose which camera it is talking to. So that is one option.
What? Sorry, just a slight change in perspective. Using a multiplexer like that means that if there is a problem with the multiplexer, basically the rover loses all cameras, right? Is this something
Yeah.
to take into account?
Well, generally, if the multiplexer is working, then it's generally reliable. I've not encountered that sort of problems.
Hmm.
Or we could have like two multiplexers, right?
Right, but
Instead of,
then that makes
so
the
you basically, instead of a 4x1 multiplexer, you are having 2x1 in and plus 2x1.
Hmm.
So
Right.
you have two multiplexers which are multiplexing between two cameras. So then you always, so you have some sort of redundancy. Instead of a single 4x1 multiplexer, you split that into two.
Right.
But still, then that takes away a lot of pins. Right.
Yes, but it also takes a lot of extra space, doesn't it?
Yeah, so we could do something like one ESP is dedicated to the camera management, and that has 2x2 uh, this multiplexer that is managing four cameras, and then basically it talks to the other ESP, which is basically the main control. So this is already a two brain architecture now, and then like if we want to add later on a Raspberry Pi, I don't know how that works.
But the thing is that each piece doesn't need to be able to interact with each other piece, right? What I mean here that the Raspberry Pi may be interacting with the one microcontroller, and that microcontroller may be interacting with another one. And
What, I didn't understand.
but it's not like a mesh between the different computes, basically. They don't have to be able to talk to each other, right?
No, no, no. So it's like one is like a controller and one is working for the other.
Yes.
But then we also need to decide like how are these microcontrollers talking to each other? Are they talking over IP? Then it's basically each microcontroller gets an IP, and then
Right.
it's it's a little easier that way, talking to each other over a Wi-Fi.
There are software stacks, to do local networking on, for example, on 8-bit IPs. We talked. I think at some point we talked about. I don't know whether I think it exists still, but Contiki and such kind of technologies with 8-bit IP stacks. Isn't it something that
So it basically
low?
becomes a wireless sensor network then.
Sorry.
It becomes a wireless sensor network. The wireless sensor network is basically, I don't know, I was working on it for 10 years ago, 15 years ago
Mm.
or something.
But 8 bit.
So it's like a small microcontrollers in a mesh or different protocols. So you have different protocols. They talk to each other for talking to each other. Depending on the bandwidth requirements, you choose different ones. And Contiki is like was one of the, I don't know if it's still running or not, but yeah, Contiki is like one of
Right.
the
It comes
first.
from that context, but I'm just talking about as part of Contiki this tiny IP stack. Okay, that would allow.
Yeah, so yeah, we could use like CoAP or something, something like that. CoAP is like constrained application protocol. It's
Right.
the subset of HTTP.
So the
Uh,
idea would be is that components on the rover, they don't need all of them to contact
mm,
the world. Okay, but if
yeah,
it makes easier to have a kind of a IP way of thinking or TCP way of thinking or UDP way of thinking inside the rover and using such kind of a small stack or something more modern, okay, that would perhaps help to use simple concepts like simpler concepts like using a TCP protocol locally, okay, for the communication. Okay, but after when we get out, we fall back on the standard TCP stack. Yeah.
but it also depends on what each microcontroller is sending, right? If it's a camera, uh, a microcontroller, then you need like high bandwidth. So I would then go directly for a Wi-Fi.
But here is different. Here I'm talking about a protocol for opening communications, for discovering each other, and for creating a contact.
Okay.
What we send on the link internally, well, it's I can't say we are limited by the physical the local physical wiring, basically, right?
Mm.
Um,
But this N+1 brains is the normal architecture you find in robots anyway.
the N+1 brain.
Yeah, so generally you have like a big brain and then lots of microcontrollers controlling small stuff here and there connected to the big brain. So that is a
Mhm.
normal architecture.
Do you have an example of that? Because um, for me, a brain here means something that does some compute, basically. Okay, so to have, for example, to move object recognition to the camera compute, okay, qualifies as a brain. If it's just a controller that just translate commands and translate them into motor control, okay, do we qualify that as a brain? Okay. And it seems to me that most robots are that. Okay, is that there is central compute. Okay, a Raspberry Pi, desktop computer, whatever, and after there are some microcontrollers, perhaps. No, they. I'm not even sure there is a microcontroller on most of them. Basically, beyond that.
Hmm. But like that Wi-Fi part, you don't need to connect to external Wi-Fi. So the ESP can act as a router, and then other ESP connect to that. So I think it's called ASP endpoint or something technically. I don't know exactly, but
Okay.
it acts can act as an access point for other ESPs. Right now, it's not configured like that. Right now, it's configured so that it uh, connects to some common Wi-Fi, but it can be done so that one ESP is acting as a access point, and then other ESPs are connecting to it via Wi-Fi. I haven't tried it, but I think it's possible. But then, how do you? Yeah, this needs to be. I have to check. Like, if you can, one ESP can connect to some Wi-Fi, internet Wi-Fi, and then the other ESPs are connecting to this uh, main connect ESP via Wi-Fi. I don't know if that's possible or not, but we can try. But how many ESPs do we need? We just need one ESP, right? So that can be directly USB
No,
or
Anurag,
UART. Or,
no, I would not assume what you just said now about one ESP.
meaning,
Meaning, I would always assume that we want at least the option of two processors.
okay, yeah. So the second ESP doesn't need to be on Wi-Fi, right? It can be UART I2C SPI or uh, or a directly USB. So the second camera ESP can be kind of a bridge that connects the main ESP to the camera. Then we have only one main ESP access point.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll have to check the pin board spec. Mm, yeah, Rhett had the schematics of the Sun Founder, right? Somewhere. I think he had got it. But yeah, I didn't have the whole, if I remember correctly, I didn't have the whole architecture schematic. It only had parts of it. And then I was searching for something and then I didn't get it in the schematic. But yeah, like we could figure it out what's there. Venkat, you have the rover, right? Galaxy rover? Or is it just Red who has it? One half built, okay. Hmm. Yeah, so I'll have to check the Freno board. Maybe we should make an Excel sheet of what's possible, and then we can decide what the next round should do. But I think I can do a quick round uh, of just the current architecture with everything remote on a single. It will be fast for me and some more practice. So I can do that one round. So we have some more learnings, and then we can do a better full design after that. And yeah, I think we should also start looking into the frames v2 if somebody has time. Uh, we could go through that new specification and try to build something there on the frames v2.
Could that be a topic for next week?
Yeah, we could try that.
I have a question about that. On the internet, it says that Blue Sky is taking off. So we committed to Farcaster.
The things we are doing on Farkas is not possible on Blue Sky.
Well, that's really my question. Blue Sky doesn't have any feedback servers, apps, whatever.
At least I don't know anything about it. It's more like exact clone of uh, Twitter with some modifications on the decentralization or the server parts.
Yeah,
So you can't do all these on-chain transactions with Blue Sky.
yeah. But we don't
Uh,
need on-chain transactions. What we need is remote access. Your own
mm,
server responding. Do we need on-chain? Is on-chain like a critical part of our offering?
kind of, yeah. So the payment gate and stuff, how would you do that? You would require like a centralized Stripe server or something to put on a payment gate or some sort of token gating or a smart contract that splits the voting or what the rover should do. You cannot do all those.
Okay,
So a lot of crypto stuff will go away without Farcaster.
okay, I hear you.
But we should also build something as a front end. So right now, I like it's almost like a mini app, and Telegram also has a mini app. I don't know how it functions, so we should have like a alternate way of also controlling the rover, and like so that if you don't want to use Farcast. So right now I'm like when I want to show someone the rover, and generally they are not on Farcaster, and like then they are not crypto people. I don't know, it's like it takes some time to make them understand to get on Farcaster to use the rover. So
Yeah,
that is a small problem. Yeah, so like we should try to, but like I'm not that good with web stuff, right? It's not that easy for me to
yeah,
get
but
things going there. Yeah.
Venkatesh, we don't. If instead of web we have social network, if it were possible in Blue Sky, okay, I think that'd be more valuable than
Mm.
web.
You could have like LLM based uh, server, so that we could
Understood.
try as, yeah, as an alternate way to control the rover, like on Blue Sky. So you have a bot that you talk to, and then the rover does stuff.
That's what we had in Twitter, but does Blue Sky support talking to bots?
That I don't know.
Okay, so take a look.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would also like to focus more on the crypto part. Like I'm more curious about it. It's more fun for me.
Well, can you do the crypto part through this LLM server? In other words, do we need the crypto in the social network, or could it be in the back server?
Well, yeah. So right now it's kind of at least my knowledge is limited, but whatever crypto part we have, we can do it ourselves. So there is a Web3 Pi maintained by Ethereum Foundation. Okay, it's a Python library for interacting with the on-chain stuff. Uh, so if like somebody is good enough with Web3 Pi, you could just integrate whatever I have, the crypto stuff, directly uh, without using Farcaster. So that is possible. So then we have like modular. That is like, but I have to study Web3 Pi a little bit more before I can do that. But I know that's possible.
Okay, so Blue Sky has completely open APIs, so anybody can build a client app. But that's a whole app.
Yes, but Farcaster, what I like is like it allows distribution easily for
Right.
us. And like you could see that at DevCon, since DevCon, almost everybody like we met had like a Farcaster account, or so like for us, we didn't have to uh like you make them use any other app or something. So distribution was built in with Farcaster. That was great there.
Yeah.
Later on, like we could also have that, so that like the rover itself has a private key, and then it signs the data it generates and puts it somewhere. So those sorts of things are also possible, but not yet. But at some point, yeah.
What do you mean? You mean about signing data?
Hmm. And then basically you could have something like what Faust is trying to do. Uh, I don't know how much of it is directly possible on ESP32, but I have found a library called libsnark. So maybe it's possible to directly generate zero knowledge proofs on the ESP32 itself. So you,
A friend is creating something called Secured, and if I'm not mistaken, the code works on microcontrollers. Okay, so it can install an agent that can sign data.
okay.
Yeah. I'm talking to him in half an hour, by the way. Okay, so it's
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you can do reactive bots on Blue Sky. So what does that really mean? I mean, I definitely see the advantage of using Forecaster. It helps us grow at the beginning, but not later. Is there any way to stream from, let's say, Blue Sky to Forecaster and then back? When I say stream, I don't mean video. I mean, I put a post on Blue Sky, so it appears on Forecaster, and then I get the frame back, something like that.
Like Farcaster should be our like social distribution layer, but doing the on-chain stuff should also be possible in some other way. Like that's what I feel like we should build some kind of web app. Uh, just through a browser, you could do the on-chain stuff we are doing via Farcaster, and Farcaster is basically like a distribution for us. Yeah, and then if we want to do Blue Sky, that is more work, right? We have limited time
Right.
to focus. Yeah. Uh,
So
but
we can get two for the price of one, but for more than double the cost.
no, I didn't understand what's going on.
So no, sorry, just reacting to the private chat. Perhaps we should chat in not in private, okay? I don't know, but it's the thing that my understanding of the Blue Sky stack. So the 80 thing, Farcaster, is that they are Farcaster made a different choice for very concrete reasons, okay? And they are not there are a lot of similarities. So in theory, no problem, okay? It will be a lot of work. And so on what we can get through Webcast, okay? So the frame integration is just we get a lot of things for free right now. It's stuff that we could do on top of Blue Sky, but
we
we
don't
have much more work, okay, out of the box. So
I could already see that, like you when at DevCon, like the distribution was so easy. Like people could just get the control in their hands from their social feed, really sign with their private key on the mobile wallet on their own phone. So that was all this infrastructure for this was already done for us. We didn't have to do much. We just had to
Right.
create the frames. That was a lot of effort taken away from us. And that paybot, somebody had made a library for making a token for us. So that also, like, we leveraged that too. So a lot of stuff we used. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do it in just like 2 or 3 months, right?
and I guess you're not full time either, right?
Yeah. So I worked on weekends for maybe like 4 months.
Wow.
But there is something else also, is that what the startups will call the TAM, okay, the target
Total
accessible
addressable
market,
market.
the accessible market, right? So
Yeah.
on Blue Sky, yes, I mean they crossed 22 million users like last weekend, okay? So yes, it's very appealing, but most of these people are not maybe not that interested. The fraction of the people interested in what's happening here maybe smaller than on Webcast, basically. Okay, it's a possibility as well. So I don't know. I'm reading. I'm scanning what the private chat, but I kind of see that what Venkatesh says for me is that for now just
Yeah, I'm not that active on Blue Sky, so I don't know.
well, yeah. The blue sky the blue sky the blue sky TAM, okay. Well, it's from what perspective? From our perspective,
But even Instagram has this Threads app, right? It's it's like more than 20-25 million people there.
Yeah.
But I don't think like people would be interested in rover stuff on this Instagram Threads, whatever it is called.
You see, what you're doing, Niraj, right now, what you're pushing forward with, is also in line with the more abstract stuff we talked about in the past. Okay, like being able right now, is I have a piece of land here to I want to pass a lawnmower, robotic lawnmower, and I could rent one and get it to do the work and so on. Okay, when we think about making that real, this is where protocols and perhaps crypto technologies look like a component that could be really helpful. Okay, so we're not there yet, but the demo you've done at DevCon for me is really in line with such kind of vision. Why? Because it's in the real world, so it involves legal aspects and so on, who is responsible if there is an accident and so on. Okay, so with a fabric on some blockchain, it starts to look possible or real. Okay, and so for me, it's more looking into that direction, and for that, it requires trials. Okay, and personally, I'm trying to look at Blue Sky as well. Okay, but I don't see people ready to for such kind of strange ideas, right?
Okay. We have 5 minutes left, but maybe next week we can discuss or look into the frames V2, or if somebody already wants to look into that, build something smaller. So
this guy has wallet plans in the
Dim
future.
neutral.
So for next week, yeah, sure. For me also a bit interested to see how the frame concept is evolving. Okay, it's interesting if there is time and interest to look at what is actually possible in Blue Sky. Okay, apparently Blue Sky is pretty stretched by their growth, by the way. Okay, and so apparently they're spending most of their time trying to moderate instead of building new stuff like they do on Webcast, basically. Okay.
Yeah.
So Even if a wallet is coming, perhaps the release date is going to be pushed back a little bit because of moderation efforts.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I don't know if anybody has time, look into the spec, and then maybe we can try to build something live. Let's see if it's possible or
Uh,
not.
on the
Can,
frames,
can you can you
I,
share?
Yeah,
I,
so they have a so they have a tutorial video. I think one of the Farcaster guys has released a tutorial video.
Can you
You're on
share?
Warpcast. Yeah,
Oh,
I can share that cast link to you.
sure. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay then. We are
Thank you
just
for your
ending.
time and talk to you next weekend.
Okay. Bye.
Yeah.